They said, "Fly out, Grandma. We want you here for Thanksgiving." Those words felt like a warm blanket around my soul. I hadn't heard anything like that in years, not since my husband passed, not since the holidays lost their magic. The idea that my son still thought of me, it lit something inside me. I began packing that very night with trembling hands. I carefully folded my old maroon sweater, the one I wore to my husband's last birthday, and tucked it between a jar of homemade jam and a small leather photo album. Inside that album were decades of memories, tiny hands, messy kisses, birthdays, bedtime stories, and 1,000 tiny moments that made up a grandmother's universe. My heart beat faster with every zip of the suitcase. I was going home, or so I thought. The flight from Iowa to Boston was cold, but my chest burned with hope. As I sat near the window, I imagined the hugs, the laughter, the smell of sweet potatoes, cranberry sauce, and a golden turkey browning in the oven. I imagined helping my daughter-in-law in the kitchen, watching my granddaughter scroll through her phone while I tried to talk her into a board game. It felt like a second chance, a beautiful redemption arc where I wasn't just the old woman people forgot to call. I was part of the story again. I landed around 9 a.m., a day before Thanksgiving. I called my son the moment we touched the ground. No answer. That was okay, I told myself. Maybe he was at work or running errands. I texted. Landed safe. So excited to see you all. I waited. Minutes turned to an hour. Then 2. The airport crowd began to thin as people left, arms wrapped around their loved ones, laughter echoing behind them. I sat on a hard bench in baggage claim, my suitcase resting beside me like a loyal dog. Still no call. Still no message. The cold inside me was growing faster than the one outside. Eventually, I called a cab. Maybe they forgot the time. Maybe they were preparing a surprise. The driver was kind, an immigrant man from Morocco. He asked why I looked nervous. I smiled and said, "Oh, nothing. Just excited to see my family." But inside, my chest was tight with unease. When we pulled up to the house, the unease turned to quiet devastation. The porch light was on. The curtains were slightly parted. Inside, I saw silhouettes, my son, my granddaughter, my daughter-in-law. They were laughing. The television flickered. There were plates on the table. Food on the stove. They were home. They knew I was here. But no one came out. I rang the bell. Once. Twice. No answer. I knocked. Still nothing. I texted again. Nothing. And that's when the truth hit me, not like thunder, but like snowfall. Silent. Cold. Devastating. I wasn't really invited. I was tolerated. Maybe they thought I wouldn't come. Maybe they assumed I'd make an excuse. Or maybe they just hoped they could say they'd invited me and never actually follow through. Because if they made the gesture, they wouldn't have to feel guilty. But I came. I believed them. And now I was here, on their porch, holding on to hope like a dying flame. I sat down on the wooden step. The wind bit through my sweater. I pulled it tight around me. Inside, my family was laughing, clinking glasses, preparing for a celebration I wasn't part of. Not even a knock on the window. Not even a "we're running late" or "give us a minute." Just silence. Heavy, intentional silence. I watched my granddaughter dance to a TikTok song through the window. She used to beg me to watch her sing in the living room. She once told me I was her favorite old lady. But now she didn't even look outside. My son passed by the hallway carrying a platter of stuffing. My daughter-in-law poured another glass of wine. They were moving on. And they left me outside. Not by accident, but by choice. That's the moment something inside me broke, not just from sadness, but from clarity. Love isn't always enough. We give and give, hoping it will circle back. But sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they just stop seeing you. Sometimes they outgrow your presence while still enjoying the memory of you. Like a song they no longer play, but still keep on a playlist. After a while, I stood up. My knees ached, my back stiff from sitting. I looked at their front door one last time, knowing it would never open for me again. I called a cab and returned to the airport. I bought a small cup of clam chowder and sat by the window, watching people embrace their loved ones, all while I sat invisible in a crowd of joy. The next day, Thanksgiving, I warmed up a microwave meal in my little Iowa kitchen. I lit a candle. The house was so quiet I could hear the flicker. I didn't cry. Not because I wasn't broken, but because the tears had already come and gone. What remained was something worse than sadness. It was numbness, a feeling of complete erasure, as if I had never mattered at all. That night, I went on a local community page. I typed a simple message. Just 6 words. Alone this Thanksgiving? You're not anymore. To my surprise, 3 people replied. A widow who lost her husband 6 months ago. A student from overseas with no one to eat with. A retired man whose kids hadn't spoken to him in 5 years. I invited them over. No turkey. Just chicken. No fancy pies. Just store-bought cake. But we shared stories. We laughed. We listened. And suddenly, the silence in my house wasn't heavy anymore. It was full. Of voices. Of kindness. Of connection. From that moment, I decided, I will never again wait on a porch that doesn't want me. I will build my own table. And I have. Every year now, I host what I call the Forgotten Thanksgiving. Anyone who's been left out, pushed away, or quietly erased from someone else's life has a seat at my table. We cry. We laugh. We remember. And most of all, we heal. Because if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. Sometimes the family that forgets you makes room for the family you were meant to find. And if you've ever been left out on Thanksgiving, on Christmas, or just a random Wednesday, please hear me now. You are not invisible. You are not unlovable. You are not too old, too boring, too much, or too broken. You are needed. Maybe not by the ones who forgot you, but by the ones still out there searching for someone just like you. So don't wait for the call that won't come. Don't wait for the knock that never happens. Open your door. Make your table. Send your message. And if you know someone who might be sitting alone this season, don't just feel bad. Reach out. A single message can save someone's entire year. I know, because I was that person once. And no one came. But this time, I did something different. And it changed everything. If this story moved something in your heart, share it.
Right now.
Let someone out there feel less alone. Tag someone you love. Tag someone you haven't spoken to in too long. Leave a comment. Share your story. Let's create a community where no one sits alone in silence ever again. Because pain multiplies in silence, but healing multiplies when we share it. So go ahead. Be someone's miracle today. And if you've ever felt forgotten, I see you. I honor you. And I love you.